It's Debatable with Mark Gray here on MLBBro.com.
Jason Schwartz joins us right now from Heavy J Studios, who are now innovating the world of baseball card trading. Well, let's talk about this MLB card art campaign where you're trying to help raise the awareness of not only the Josh Gibson for Most Valuable Player trophy honors, but you're talking about keeping the memories of the Negro Leagues alive. How'd that come to be?
I'm going to dial it back to maybe last June. We were a few months into the pandemic, and I was just trying to figure out not only a good way to just stay sane and get through tough times, but also make a difference in the world. And so I got the idea to create art from baseball cards and use all the money that would come in to raise money for good causes. And so somebody I hooked up with early was Sean Gibson from the Josh Gibson Foundation. And I began making cards of Josh or of other players with the money going to the Josh Gibson Foundation. And out of that relationship, really what grew, so many exciting things have happened with Josh Gibson just since that time, right? MLB recognition of the Negro Leagues as major leagues, Josh Gibson's name being mentioned as potentially holding some new records and things like that. And so it's been a really exciting time to be friends with Sean and do things with him. So he came to me and a few other artists, and he said, look, we've got this Josh Gibson MVP campaign. We want to get Josh's name on the trophy. We think he's a leading candidate. Is there anything that the card art community could do? And so we answered the call. We set up a tournament. It's kind of like the NCAA tournament, only we got more teams. So we got about 70 different card artists. We're all making our cards of Josh Gibson, promoting his MVP campaign. And we're doing it with social media, mainly on Twitter, a little bit of Instagram, just to get that recognition out there, recognize Josh, really talk about his legacy, and hopefully try to make a dent in terms of the writers who are going to be voting on the name for the MVP award.
Are you sensing that there's a new generation of baseball fans who, in lieu of traditional card collecting like we did back in the day, are bringing nostalgia back through technological innovation, if you will?
I'll give credit to Topps. Topps had launched something called Project 2020 right at the start of the pandemic, which involved serious artists, professional artists, putting their own spin on Topps baseball cards. And I think seeing these really creative takes on baseball cards also was part of what inspired myself and some other people to say, hey, maybe there's something I can create. The third thing, though, right, is especially for collectors my age or maybe a little bit younger, the cards we thought we were going to retire on in the 1980s, the 1990s, our Dwight Goodens, our Darryl Strawberries, Jose Cansecos, right? These cards ended up having almost no value, right? Now they have sentimental value, so you can't really get rid of them, but they're not really worth any money. And so I think the third component here was the chance to take these cards that were special to us as kids and be able to do something to make them special again, turn them into pieces of art.
Who would you say is the brainchild for this?
In terms of card art, I think a lot of people had been doing it kind of on the side or in private or something as a hobby, but it really seemed to explode on the internet during the pandemic. A lot of artists like myself that got going early in the pandemic often will cite Blake Jameson, who's one of the artists that Topps had hired, simply because he was doing great work with card art for Topps, but also was really engaging with fans and really welcoming and encouraging of other folks that kind of wanted to dip their toe in the water. We'd make our first card or two and we'd post it, and Blake would give us a compliment. And I think that was something that gave us the courage, maybe, or the enthusiasm to keep doing what we were doing.
How important do you think that will be for baseball to bring that next generation of fan back to the game in order to sustain it in areas that, quite frankly, feel disenfranchised, if you will?
It's not just a fun way for these kids to learn about Josh Gibson, let's say, and maybe pick up an additional skill, and I think the arts just have, there's a wonderful power, right, of doing art.
MLBBro.com, covering black and brown major league.